Now call this meeting of the Jacksonville City Council to order. I want to welcome everyone who's in attendance tonight, and also those that will be watching the program, the meeting on G10. The first thing we're going to do this evening is we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by some young patriots in our midst here. We have some young men from Boy Scouts Troop 597. They're working on their community citizenship and the community badge, and I'd ask them and their leaders, if you would come up front, please, to lead us in the pledge. Come right out here. Everyone rise.
Please join me in the pledge of allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Now we'll have the invocation by our City Attorney, John Carter.
Let us pray. Our Heavenly Father, as always, we pause to give you thanks. To give you thanks for this most beautiful day that you've blessed us with, and for all the gifts and blessings that you bestow upon us individually and as the city of Jacksonville. As we approach the end of another hurricane season, we especially give thanks that you have protected us from any major storms or hurricanes. We pray that you would continue to protect us and to protect our fragile coastal area that we live in. We pray for our military who are serving us here and around the world, and for their anxious families. And as always, we ask that your guidance and direction be with our mayor and with our council. All this we ask in your holy name. Amen.
Amen. Gentlemen, thank you very much.
Good job. All right. Thank you.
I'm very proud to announce that to my left here, Council Member Dr. Angela Washington has been appointed to the North Carolina Military Affairs Commission by North Carolina Governor Roy Cooper. We're very proud that she's gotten this appointment. It's very important to this community that we have representatives on that board, being a military town, a host military city. So at this time, she will be taking the oath of office administered by Judge Paul Hardison, who's in attendance with us tonight. He was 4th District Court, I think he was the Chief Judge of the Justice of the District Court. He's now retired, but he's come back for a special duty here tonight. Judge Hardison, Angela, if you would.
I'm going to have some of my families.
Family members? Come on up.
Get any members of your family or friends that you want to be fine. Stand behind you.
If you will place your left hand on the Bible, raise your right hand, and repeat after me. I, and state your name,
I, Angela Washington,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support
that I will support
the Constitution of the United States.
the Constitution of the United States.
I, and state your name,
I, Angela Jewel Washington,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will be faithful
that I will be faithful
and bear true allegiance
and bear true allegiance
to the state of North Carolina
to the state of North Carolina
and to the constitutional powers
and to the constitutional powers
and authorities
which are or may be
established for the government thereof.
establishment for the government thereof,
And that I will endeavor
that I will endeavor
to support,
to support,
maintain, and defend
the Constitution
the Constitution
of said state,
of said state,
not inconsistent with
not inconsistent with
the Constitution
the Constitution
of the United States.
of the United States.
I, and state your name,
I, Angela Jewel Washington,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will well
that I would well
and truly
and truly
execute the duties
execute the duties
of my office
of my office
as a member of
the
North Carolina Military Affairs Commission,
North Carolina Military Affairs Commission,
according to the best of
according to the best of
my skill and ability,
my skill and ability,
according to law,
according to law,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you, Judge Hardison. Congratulations. I know I've told you this before, but we're very proud of this appointment. You know, it reflects really well on this community, and I know that you'll do an outstanding job for us. Thank you, Angela.
Thank you.
Take a little breather here for a minute. Before we get back to the meeting, we have some very special guests that are joining us tonight. I want to acknowledge Mayor Pro Tem Bittner's wife, Sue, his daughter, Carrie, his granddaughter, Sarah and Hazel, and his grandson, Gavin, who are joining us for a special presentation in honor of Mayor Pro Tem Jerry Bittner. In September of 1987, the city welcomed a young Jerry Bittner as our new city manager, a post he held until his retirement in April of 1999. Dramatic changes have occurred in our community in the nearly 12 years that he served as our city manager and the 18 years he has served as an elected official of Jacksonville. During his 12 years leading the city, he worked closely with the mayor and council on many important and innovative projects. In 1990, he spearheaded a successful multi-governmental process to annex Camp Lejeune Marine Corps Base. This involved collaboration with federal agencies, high-ranking military personnel, Onslow County government officials, and local municipalities. With the addition of the military population, the city became the 10th largest city in the state of North Carolina, making it extremely attractive to businesses seeking to locate to developing areas. As more businesses relocated to Jacksonville, sales taxes increased to both the city and the county, as well as local municipalities. The city council was able to then reinvest this revenue in quality of life initiatives for our citizens. One such quality of life initiative was the creation of the Jacksonville Commons Recreation Complex. Mr. Bittner helped guide the city council through the process to purchase and develop the city's first regional recreation park. This effort resulted in the purchase of 400 acres of land, an interlocal agreement with the school board to develop an elementary school, a development agreement, the first ever in Jacksonville, for a developer to donate land to build a high school and middle school, and the preparation and implementation of a recreation master plan. This in turn led to private development of the adjacent properties for single and multi-family neighborhoods. Michael LaCory, our Parks Director, said, "The decision Mr. Bittner made during his time as city manager laid the foundation for the great things you see in Jacksonville today. When Mr. Bittner took the helm as city manager, he inherited a river contaminated with wastewater, leading to another innovative quality of life project, the closing of the city wastewater plant and design and creation of a groundbreaking land application wastewater facility. From the early days of Jacksonville, the city treated wastewater at a plant along the banks of the New River. This resulted in major contamination and the river literally becoming dead water. Under Mr. Bittner's leadership, the council chose to close the wastewater plant and two major innovative projects were created. A forest management approach for treating wastewater in the Sturgeon City Wilson Bay New River Restoration Project. The wastewater forest management program was a groundbreaking method of treating and disposing of wastewater in the state of North Carolina. Mr. Bittner directed a program for the city to purchase over 7,400 acres of pine forest, build a series of holding ponds, install over 300 miles of pipe and 21,000 spray heads to return the treated wastewater to the ground by irrigation spraying. Thus, the natural cycle of water was fulfilled, resulting in successfully treating an average of 6.5 million gallons of wastewater per day. An offshoot of this process is the growth and harvesting of the pine and other tree species for city revenue. The council's decision to close the wastewater treatment plant and the subsequent creation of the land application site then paved the way for efforts to clean up the New River. Thus, the Sturgeon City Wilson Bay New River Restoration Project was born. Mr. Bittner began the project, and over the last 20 years, millions of oysters have been installed, aerators have injected oxygen into the water, and today the New River is thriving for fishing, crabbing, and recreational boating activities. Over the years, many cities have come to Jacksonville to tour and learn from our forest management and wastewater system. Many articles have been published about the great success of the New River Restoration Project. Each summer, the city sponsors interns majoring in environmental science to come work in the New River Oyster Highway, where we are again installing millions of oysters. Today, the river has been restored, and a nonprofit organization established by the city dedicated to environmental education operates the site of the old wastewater treatment plant. Many had a hand in these projects, but the journey began with Mr. Bittner and Liz Owen every day in Jacksonville. Another accomplishment Mr. Bittner is credited with is one of encouraging cooperation. When he became the manager, the city and the county did not work well together, nor did the city have a working relationship with the base. Mr. Bittner worked to bridge these gaps by creating avenues for communication between municipal and county managers, as well as opportunities for intergovernmental collaboration. He was a proponent of the government transparency long before it became the status quo. He helped form the civic affairs committee that today leads the overall community in efforts to honor our fallen heroes and to conduct annual ceremonies such as the Beirut Memorial and the 9/11 Remembrance ceremonies. As a result of his collaboration, Jacksonville was selected as an All-America City in 1992. In 2021, not long after his retirement, the City Council appointed Mr. Bittner to a vacant council member seat. He was then elected for another term, serving as council member and mayor pro tem for 18 years to date. During this time, he was also serving as a highly valued and distinguished adjunct faculty member for the Masters of Public Administration program at Webster University aboard Camp Lejeune, delivering world-class academic experience for its student body. Many Marines and sailors and military family members were his students, developing the skill sets needed for success after the military service. As an adjunct faculty, he touched, challenged, and inspired countless students. Cindy Rose, the former senior director of Webster University, said, "As a faculty coordinator, Mr. Bittner recruited, guided, and supported new and fellow faculty members. He fought for what was right and always made it a point to love, care for, and work harmoniously with campus staff and military leadership. He was there for every community service day to paint, move rocks, dig plants, help Habitat for Humanity, or any need which arose on or off site. In short, he led by example." From a personal perspective, I want to add that Mr. Bittner has been an inspiration and a mentor to me, not only during my career with the city of Jacksonville, but also after my own retirement. I followed his example to serve my community on our local governing body, and with Mr. Bittner's encouragement, I also began my teaching career at Webster University and then on to Coastal Carolina Community College. In my opinion, Mr. Bittner is the epitome of public service and leadership. His knowledge is tremendous, and those of us who have benefited from his willingness to share that knowledge owe him a great deal of gratitude. There have been many accomplishments in the city during Mayor Pro Tem Bittner's 18 years serving on the City Council, including the redevelopment of Jacksonville City Hall, construction of the Richard Ray All-American Park, the Public Works and Utilities Facility, Freedom Fountain, Jacksonville Landing, Riverwalk Crossing Park, the Freedom Fountain, I'm sorry, I repeated that one, didn't I? Vietnam Veterans Memorial, the Montfort Point Marine Memorial, Fire Station Number 2, and the Center for Public Safety, just to mention a few. Not all, but a few. During his 30 years of total service to the city, he has served as a member of the Energy, Environment, and Natural Resources Policy Committee and the Regulatory Advisory Committee of the North Carolina League of Municipalities. He serves as council liaison to the Jacksonville Board of Adjustment and served as a member of the Onslow Civic Affairs Committee for 12 years. He has been a director of the Onslow Water and Sewer Authority for 18 of the 21 years that ONWASA has been in existence, currently serving as their chairman. I would now like to invite Mayor Pro Tem Bittner and his family to join me in front of the dais. All I can say is there's only one Jerry Bittner.
Thank goodness.
The mold was broken. Everyone who knows him can attest to the fact that he is brilliant, kind, devoted, honest, witty, and leaves an impact of goodwill in every person he meets, except perhaps those he meets on the golf course. We also want to say a heartfelt thank you to his wife, Sue, who's with us tonight, and to his family for loaning him to us and for your unwavering support over the years. You can be proud of all the good work he has done for this city and our community for all these years. This evening we honored Jerry Bittner for 30 years of service, and he has continually dedicated his time and talents to making Jacksonville the best it can be for our citizens. And we have a short video that we're going to play.
Oh, my goodness.
present this 30-year recognition of such incredible service here with the city of Jacksonville. And, you know, his heart's always been with Jacksonville since the moment he first came here, you know, set foot in this city. And he's worked hard to make this a better place for everyone to live and continues to do so to this day. I'm looking, you know, I've enjoyed the time that I've been able to spend with Jerry. He's an integral part of this council that makes it work so well. And I'm looking forward to many more years of service with Jerry. I would like to present you with this, Jerry.
Thank you very much. Well, I'm sorry you had to sit through all that. And you probably expected to see Superman up here. I'm not. I have been fortunate to have the support of a loving family, my wife, for all the meetings that I'm away from home and away from kids. And very fortunate to be a part of an organization as city manager and as a member of the city council, all of whom and the employees of the city of Jacksonville who made me a better manager, and with the council makes me part of an organization that has one major goal, and that is to make Jacksonville a little better as they work and as they found it. And I thank everyone here for that recognition, and believe me, I'm totally awed and very thankful. Thank you.
That will be asking the council to come down and stand also. So, camera lady. Get everybody there. Can you see all?
I'm going to come around.
Mayor?
Okay.
Ready?
You ready?
Okay, will the council please come down? Let's stand here so we have the seal in the back. We're going to ask Bill. Sure. Thanks, Lexi. Here.
Hey.
Here's
Thank you very much.
Is he Dr. Washington? No. You're hiding behind the mayor. Let's see. We got a layer of folks there. Here like this. There we go. All right, we got it. You need them back up and all of this.
Want to back up?
All right, everybody, 2 steps back.
Yeah,
Let's
now
go.
let's, yeah.
2 steps back.
I'll get him.
Now, would you come over here where you get the seal?
Oh, can you see it?
Let's take a minute, Mr. Victor, would you introduce your family to the public?
It's my granddaughter Hazel, my favorite and only daughter.
Favorite child.
My granddaughter
This is crazy.
Sahara, and where's the other?
He had to go to the back. The really tall one.
There's 2 other grandchildren, and my wife Sue, who puts up with me over the last many years.
If anyone came just for the presentations tonight and you wish to leave, now would be a good time if you want to. You are more than welcome to stay for the rest of the meeting. Hopefully it won't take too long, but thank you very much for coming, everyone. Hey, Mike. Mumford. His weight goes in and out. Can we now entertain a motion to adopt the agenda for tonight's meeting?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. That brings us to our first section of public comment for the evening. I have two people signed up. I have Scott Haber of 999 New River Drive. Mr. Haber.
Good evening, Dr. Washington. Good evening, Brian. How are you this evening? I have two letters that I would like to submit to City Council for City Council to read. I am currently staying at the Affordable Suites of America over by Walmart, and some of the residents over there are getting put out as of Thursday because Trillium has no more funds. So they have written a two-page letter that they wanted me to submit to City Council. So who do I submit it to?
Thank you, sir.
Okay, I guess I'll start off with my name. My first name is Scott, last name is Haber, H-A-B as in boy, E-R. I live at 999 New River Drive. I'm here to try to get some answers on the October 5th meeting on P1 and P2. I would kind of like to know what that has to do as far as the town center residents. Me and my family have still been looking since the last city council meeting, and we have not been able to find anything. I seriously feel the city of Jacksonville and Onslow County does not realize the homeless population that is about to come down. And I also feel that, you know, we're still going through a pandemic. We got the holidays coming up. Families in town center are still wondering where are they going to be this time next year or before next year. Now, I was made aware that not everybody got that extension till the end of June. Certain people have gotten it, not everybody has gotten it. We have not gotten answers as far as town center since the last city council meeting. And I apologize to Dr. Washington and to Brian for my behavior for last month on how I reacted. That was not me, but I was really upset, and I still am, because we have not, as Town Center residents, gotten any answers since the last city council meeting. So I come in front of the city council today to try to get answers on what's going to happen as far as our housing situation. We're not getting answers from Dr. Woodruff. We're not getting answers from the city attorney. We're not getting answers from anywhere. We're not getting them from Town Center. I just at my wits' ends, and as everybody on G10 and everybody else has seen the last city council meeting, the reason I was so emotional was because I've been homeless more than 10 times in New York City. And I'm afraid, no, I'm gonna switch that. I'm scared that that's gonna happen to me and my family again. And we're not familiar with Jacksonville when it comes to homelessness. So I think there needs to be some communication between Town Center and the City Council and the Town Center residents, because we do not know what our future holds. We have not gotten any answers. We have not gotten any responses. I feel literally that it's always, every time somebody from Town Center or me or my wife come in front of the City Council and we ask direct questions, it gets pushed under the rug, or we get told we don't have answers, or whatever else. To me, that is saying, and I'm sorry to name names, but I have to, it sounds like Dr. Woodruff does not care what happens to the residents out in Town Center. It sounds like the city attorney does not care what happens to the residents out in Town Center. And I am here tonight to say, I still feel like we're being treated like trash. And I don't like that feeling. There's been sleepless nights for me. My health has deteriorated really, really bad, to the point where I've almost had 3 or 4 nervous breakdowns. I've been very depressed. My appetite has changed. And I'm to the point where I'm starting to wonder, what's the purpose of life anymore? What's the meaning? I mean, what am I living for? What am I fighting for? If we're not going to get the answers that I think as Town Center residents, we are owed, we are deserved. And I mean, you know, I don't want to get out of control and I don't want to lose my cool, but at the end of the day, you guys go home to your nice houses. I mean, us living in Town Center, I'm not going to sit here and say it's the greatest place to live, but for most of us, it's the only place we can live. So I'm here asking the City Council, Dr. Woodruff, the City Attorney, as Town Center residents, and as me being part of this organization here, what are we supposed to go back and tell the residents? Oh, we don't know nothing? We come down to the City Council meeting every month, and it's like we get the same answers every month, which is, we have no answers. So if I can please get a couple minutes where I can get some answers or some direction, I would gladly appreciate that.
Mr. Carter, between you and Tracy, can you fill Mr. Avery in on what's been done up to now, and what the future might hold as far as he's concerned, and the other residents over there?
The council a few weeks back, asked that we get in touch with the town center apartment owners and get an extension of the agreement from the December 31 deadline to June 30th, 2022. That was done. Council members were supplied a copy of that. Today, I was asked, at least last week, to respond to a couple of inquiries from a couple of council members, and the number of occupants has gone down from the 280 number that were left down to around 260, maybe even a little, one or two below that, as far as units that are still occupied. We have not had any direct communication with, at least I haven't, with this gentleman at all, or with the town center landlord or the owner as to what their next steps are, what they are doing. As we've indicated before, we stepped back as far as the city, and we're not doing any inspections over there unless they call and ask for inspection. We just totally have left this up to be what it really is at this point in time. It is a landlord-tenant situation where the landlord has to decide whether the tenant's complying with leases, if there are leases, et cetera. And again, it's between them, and I can't fill you in on their thought process because I've really had no communication with them.
And this is because why?
Well, let me say one other thing, Mayor. The city, as Dr. Woodruff said last time, y'all put initially up $20,000, and that looked like it was going out. So another $20,000 has been given to the Onslow Community Outreach, and they are assisting folks in paying new rent deposits, utility hookups, and things of that nature, whatever that money was specified for. So that is occurring. But again, we have not had any conversations with the landlord. I mean, that is between him and his and their tenants. It's just like any landlord-tenant situation is. It would be inappropriate for the city to get involved, other than how we got involved initially, because the tenants called us. They called us and said, this is situations and living conditions that we should not be allowed and be subject to. And that's when city forces went over and found all that's been related to the council and to this gentleman, and he lives it, and they've testified to it at the last meeting as to the conditions that existed that was just unfit for human habitation. And again, the city has some obligations here, some legal obligations, because as I pointed out to the council before, the city is the one who is authorized and empowered by law to enforce minimum housing standards. And, you've heard the testimony from the folks 2 or 3 or 4 weeks ago where folks are having illnesses, et cetera, that are occurring. But again, at this point in time, it is between the landlord and the tenants. We have got that extension and we've stood back, and so we're not pushing anything from a city perspective except money.
There's a couple of things Mr. Haber mentioned when he was testifying. First off was that not everyone has that same extension date. Are you aware of it?
Again, that's between the landlord and the tenant. They could clearly, we have said last time, a lot of these folks, at least my understanding is, are on month-to-month lease. And it may be a month-to-month lease that's gone on for 10 years. But if that landlord decides, I want this person evicted, all they've got to do is give them 30 days notice to move out. And then they can take appropriate eviction action and move them out. But again, that's the landlord's decision. The city's not involved at all there, sir.
Okay. I understand what the city attorney is saying. See, this comes into what Brian was discussing last month. Us as tenants, you as the city council and the city attorney and the city manager, we are stuck in the middle. The blame goes back to the property manager of Town Center. Then when we go and talk to them or to her, because I am in very close contact with her, I talk to her almost every day on a regular basis. I have her personal number. She throws it back to the city council and to the city. And this is the runaround that we've been getting for the last 3 months.
Well,
and
they shouldn't be doing that.
We're not
they need
getting
to take
any
care of the problem.
answers.
There was one other thing that you mentioned too, and that was the stay at affordable suites. Where was that? Where were you getting that money
I'd rather
from?
not put that on G10 because I could, if you
understand.
want to see me outside before I leave, I'll gladly tell you. but I'd rather not put that on G10.
Talk with Ms. Jackson over in Community Development, Neighborhood.
I haven't
Services.
spoken to anybody. Okay, what I will say, with not going into the details of why I'm at the affordable suites right now, I have not left my apartment. I had a situation in my apartment, and I had to get the exterminator to come in and do my apartment. And it's gonna cost me $600 plus what it has cost me between Friday and till this coming Friday in the hotel. It's cost me a little bit more than $540. And being that I am on the HOPE program, I have had some money saved up. But those funds, now that I have to currently stay at the hotel because my apartment has the situation, and Mr. Mayor, I'm willing to talk to you outside when I'm done. I will gladly explain it, but like I said, I'd rather not put it on G10.
That's fine.
And I was just reapproved for HOPE program funds, so that will now carry me through till at least the 1st of April, due to the, I don't know if you've seen the HOPE contract or whatever. The HOPE contract states, as long as HOPE is paying my rent, that under no circumstance can I get evicted. So now that, starting November 1st, my second phase of the HOPE program starts. So I have November, December, and January that they will be paying my rent. So I don't have to start paying rent again till November 1st. And then there's also a clause in there that says 60 days after the program ends, I cannot get evicted. So 60 days, if I'm doing my math right, Brian, correct me if I'm wrong or not, I believe that takes me to the 1st of November, to the 1st of April, before any actions to get me out of my house can be taken due to the HOPE agreement. But like I said, City Council and Mr. Mayor and Brian and Dr. Washington, I, as a tenant of Town Center, and I, as a homeless person, my passion is homelessness. And I have to go on G10 and say this. I'm to the point where I don't want to see nobody homeless, because it is no joke. It is literally no joke. And the factor of not getting any answers, it's, I mean, look at me. I mean, you can see from the last time I was here and the time before I was here, I've lost weight. My speech is not 100%. I've just been very, very depressed, and literally, and please do not take me out on cuffs on what I'm about to say, but I have to say it. I've thought about suicide. I've thought about it. And I know my wife is sitting right outside, and she's gonna come up after me, where she goes nights where she doesn't sleep because she's worried about what's gonna happen to me. And right now, if I could get down on my knees and beg for a place to live, I will do that. But I have busted my tail looking for a place to live. And what makes it even harder is I have to stay in the city limits because I don't drive. I have no means of transportation except for the Jacksonville Transit. And this is not an act. This is, me trying to get sympathy points or anything else. It comes down to the factor of I'm on a fixed income. And the bottom line, there is nothing in my price range. And I think the city council and the city attorney and Dr. Woodruff would agree with me. I should not have to go into another apartment where I have to give up my washer and dryer. Because I'm sorry to say, and this is the reason I'm gonna say this, because it's gonna make me laugh, and I'm glad it could do that. You could call me bluesy, you could call me baji, but I'm sorry, for the last year and 4 months, I've gotten used to doing laundry at home, where I don't have to schlep my laundry to the laundromat. and I don't want to give that up.
I don't mean to interrupt. Let's let your wife come in and let her say what she has to say, Mr. Haber.
Okay, do you want me to come around, Mr. Mayor, so I can, or,
You probably need to step out of the chambers for that.
okay, but I'm saying, do you want me to meet you?
I'm not
Outside?
gonna be able to do that right now because we still have the rest of the meeting to do, but perhaps we can,
So does Brian want to step out and I can tell him the situation?
yeah, that'd be great. Thank you.
Thank you, City Council. Have a good night.
You can send your wife in, please.
Okay, I will.
Brian, do they have a tenant organization?
They do. They have.
That's who needs to be getting answers for these folks.
And he's part of the leadership group,
Okay,
and they've been reaching out, but I think until we get the owners to be able to come in front of the individuals that live the leadership group, they're not gonna get the answers that they need. I mean, we kind of, we took hands off for them to actually, have a stay until June of next year. But they're still uncertain based on what's going on because the owners with the manager, the property manager has to make the decision on if they're going to extend the time. And also if they're going to be working on other apartments in that area to try to bring them up to livable conditions. So that's the big thing, is trying to get the ownership with the property management, and not necessarily the one that's in place right now. She was actually brought in as a consultant during when the other group was supposed to buy their apartments, and then everything got found out concerning the problems we have now in Town Center. So until that happens, where they could come in front of the leadership of actually the property management, or like I said, the owner can speak to the leadership of the tenants association, they're gonna feel that they're in the middle. So,
Thank you, brother. Ms. Haber?
Yes, good evening, City Council. My name is Dorothea Haber. I live at 999 New River. I just have quick questions to ask. One is, I did get in touch with Sandy Run. They only have 3 bedrooms available. They don't have 2 bedrooms available at all. Holiday City got nothing. So what they're claiming, they have none. Is there any other places that they can have us call to see if we can get something in our price range?
I believe it might be to your advantage to go back around there where your husband just went, where Mr. Jackson and Ms. Tracy Jackson are at, who's our neighborhood services, and maybe she can answer your question. I'm sure they have an inventory of all the different places that are available. So I think you might be able to talk with her.
Well, my husband submitted something to somebody, I don't know who he submitted it to, but there was somebody they called, Plaza Manor Apartments. There's a 6-month to a year wait for a 2-bedroom to come available.
Yeah.
That's HUD housing at that.
Yeah,
There's nothing anywhere. I mean, I've called all over, and there's nothing. Everything's over $1,000. I don't have that. That's why I said, is there any other places besides Sandy Run and Holiday City? Because there's nothing.
I think it'd be a good idea if you go get involved with that conversation they're having.
Okay, where did they go?
Come on with me.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, City Council.
All right, let's move forward here on the agenda. All right.
Mr. Mayor, this is an ongoing issue, and if they're not hearing anything, is there any way that we can, from a city standpoint, try to get those folks at Town Center to at least talk to that tenant organization to let them know that they need to provide answers, and that throwing the ball back to our court is not in their best interest or ours either?
We can certainly pass that on to the town center. management and to the owners that there is a tenant organization that would like to meet with them and so forth. But from this gentleman's testimony, he is assured by his own testimony that he's got a place to live until April 1, 2022. Now, you know,
I know,
I don't know, but again, I presume, and that's just a, presumption, but this hope that he talked about, that the landlord or the management company had to sign on to that if they were to accept that funds. But again, those are things we don't have knowledge of. That's a contractual situation.
Right.
But we can certainly pass it on.
right, and I'm not saying that we want to get ourselves in the middle of this. I'm saying, though, I think that we should use whatever means we have available to at least get them to communicate that, that we're hearing continually that they're not communicating with the tenants, and that's not acceptable from our standpoint. And I know we've tried to put the pressure on them, and we've done a good job. I think, give Dr. Woodruff and his staff good credit and you too, for at least getting it to the point where they know they've got an issue and they've got to do something. But I really would like to see at least them communicating.
Well, you're just hearing one side of the story.
I know that.
Let's just start, But again, we'll be glad to pass that on to them, that the Tenants Association would like to have a meeting with them. We'll send that to the lady who runs the management as well as to the owner, and I'll send it to the attorney.
Yeah, well, I know we can't make them do it, but at least pass the information on.
Yes, sir, we will.
That's something we would desire that they did. So,
Yes.
Let me, a quick question, the money that's in the fund, has that been reestablished or?
We established $20,000 the last check, not meaning the check, but the last time we checked with Onslow Community Outreach, they had expended just under $18,000. We have also issued a PO purchase order for an additional $20,000. A couple of real quick comments, and again, I apologize for stepping out. I suppose I was on the road to going to where, as the gentleman told me I was last time, but we won't bring that up again. The action that you took addressed 67 units. As of today, only 4 of those families have moved out. Only 4. What we're being told by people who live there is that all 63 of those that are left plan on doing nothing except coming back to you in May and asking for another extension. You're going to face this month after month after month. It's not pleasant. I can tell you, it's not pleasant for me to sit here and be accused of things. I do care, whether people believe it or not. I can also tell you that these people are in a bind. But I can also give you some statistics, whether people believe them or not, that's up to them. There have been 45 applications turned in to Sandy Run Apartments. Of those, 6 have been approved. 24 of the people who turned in the applications have never gone back to present the documentation that's required. Is that the city's fault? Absolutely not. People have to be responsible. I understand they're in a pickle. They're in a difficult situation. Also, we know from documentation that there are 14 people who cannot pass the criminal background check. And therefore, they're not going to be accepted into any housing. Come April and May, this city council will once again have a packed office. And you will hear the same comments because there is no simple solution. I would remind you that what the city has done is we have addressed the issues. The gentleman who spoke tonight said that he's staying in a hotel. Why? Because of the deplorable living conditions where he had to exit his unit. You as elected officials and we as elected or as appointed officials have a legal mandate that we cannot turn a blind eye to this. It's going to be unpleasant. You're going to have a lot of people stand and accuse you of a lot of things and accuse me and John of a lot of things, and that's fine. That's our job. What people need to understand, though, at the end of the day, we don't own the property. At the end of the day, tomorrow morning or any morning after tomorrow, the person who owns the property has the legal right to evict these people.
Now, the gentleman says we haven't communicated. I don't know how to be, if there is such a term, more plainer. My wife is going to say, man, that's terrible grammar. I honestly don't know how to tell people anything other than this. Folks, you need to be finding a way out. And there is no simple way out. So at the end of the day, we have sympathy with them. We have set aside money. There was a rumor that the money that the city was setting aside was actually given directly to the tenant and that the tenants were not using that money correctly. That's false. The money is never given to the tenant. If the tenant comes into Onslow Community Outreach and they fill out the necessary paperwork, the money will then be directly assigned from Onslow Community Outreach to whatever utility company that is or to whichever apartment complex it is. There is no money that is ever given directly to the tenants. I can tell you this, the problem is not going to go away. We know that James Mades is in the process with his company of building about 70 units out on Blue Creek School Road. That means 70 units are going to come available. But unless you can pass the criminal background check, and unless you show that you have been a good tenant, you're not going to get in there. So there will still be people who potentially are going to become homeless. You can blame the staff, you can blame anybody you want. The fact comes down to this. At the end of the day, we cannot make the landlord communicate, but what we can do is what we've done. And that's we have printed brochures, we've given them to Councilmember Jackson. He has personally gone out and distributed well over 200 of those to the residents. And those brochures showed the residents step by step what they needed to do to try to get assistance. Has it worked for everybody? No. What I can tell you, though, is about 20 families have relocated thanks to your efforts to give money. It hasn't solved the problem. We will continue as a staff to ask the landlord to do everything they can. But I come back down to this. Once the city is notified that a illegal activity is occurring, and by illegal I'm talking about housing that is unfit, we have a mandate, and if we don't follow through with that mandate, you and we have a liability where we can be sued for people being sick because they were allowed to live in unfit conditions. And the gentleman tonight once again testified to you of the unfit conditions that he is living in. My 3 minutes is up. I apologize for being so stern, but that's my position, and that's going to continue to be my position as your manager. Thank
I
you.
don't think anyone on the council is asking or saying the city is not doing the right thing. I mean, it definitely is one of those cases of save someone from themselves here, because of the conditions they're having to live under. We're just saying, what Mr. Ward was saying is just try to shake the tree one more time. That's basically it. See if we can get some kind of response from them. And again, like you say, there's no obligation on their part to do it. But maybe they would take up the whole issue morally and socially, but at least give it a try. It's just like we're doing with the money to help them move, help pay for moving expenses. That's something we really don't have a legal obligation to do. But we do it because we do have compassion for the situation that they are in.
Understood. We will certainly do that.
So let's move on for now. And let's see, we have to adopt the
I'll give you a motion to adopt the minutes and consent items.
okay. And any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Let's go to the public hearing that's listed under number 10. And this is a Unified Development Ordinance public hearing.
Good evening, Mayor, Council. This agenda item I bring back to you tonight, and I apologize for having to do that. We had a typographical error that we did not catch. The middle column, RMH, we had it listed as is not applicable when we should have had it listed as a type A buffer all the way down except for RMH next to RMH. That hasn't created any hardships as we do not have any RMH zoning at this time, but we realized we needed to bring this back for correction. And this was recommended unanimously by the planning board last week, and we would ask for you to consider this modification to the Unified Development Ordinance by changing the NAs to A, with the exception of the one underneath the column here under RMH. Be happy to answer any questions the council may have at this time.
Any questions, Council Ryan? So this time, we'll go ahead and conduct a public hearing that's required on this matter. We'll recess the council meeting and open up the public hearing. Is there anyone that wishes to speak to this matter? Please indicate by raising your hand. Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing, reconvene our regular meeting. Council, you're being asked to consider the Unified Development Ordinance, text ordinance amendment.
I'll make the motion to approve recommendation of proposed amendment because it's consistent with the adopted CAMA plan and is reasonable in the public interest. And staff and planning board have recommended and approved the UDO text amendment found in attachment A.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Discussion? Hearing none, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Moving on to agenda item number 11, and this is a map amendment. Let me get this up here.
Mayor, Council. Technology is going to fail me tonight. I don't have connectivity right now, so I'm going to have to wing it. So this is a City of Jacksonville staff-initiated rezoning request for approximately 18 acres located at the corner of Gateway Drive South and Commons Drive South. That's owned by the city. It's currently zoned residential, it's currently zoned office and institutional. We are looking to rezone this to residential multifamily high density as discussed with the mayor and council at your earlier meeting this month. The CAMA land use plan identifies this area as park, and the reason why it's identified as park space is because it's part of the overall park property owned by the city, and at this time we're looking to shift that over to residential multifamily. If approved by City Council, we would ask that you recommend approval of the rezoning and also direct staff to amend the CAMA land use plan to a high-density designation. I'd be happy to answer any questions the mayor and council may have at this time.
Questions of Ryan? Thank you, Ryan.
Thank you.
This time, we'll recess the regular council meeting and open up the public hearing on this matter. Anyone wish to speak on this matter, please indicate by raising your hand. All right, see no one, so we're going to close the public hearing and reconvene the council meeting. You're being asked to consider the rezoning request.
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion. I recommend that we approve the rezoning request and we direct staff to amend the CAMA future land use map based on the evaluation of findings of fact A through J and the staff report being found in the affirmative, and that rezoning advances the public interest by creating more development opportunities.
Second?
We have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion on this matter? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed. Motion carries. Got right out of the meeting. Let's see here.
Well, the graphic on the screen tells you what's coming. Hard to believe October is the beginning of the budget cycle for us. I know that you're aware that it was only a few months ago you adopted your budget for this fiscal year. But as we always do, Gail and the senior staff begin to work to bring you information only at this point. These are some, probably not all, of the major budget topics that you're going to face this coming year. Wage adjustments and hiring competition. You were very kind this year to put $400,000 in the budget for us to try to bring the very lowest of our employees up. We now have moved everybody where everybody is at least making $13.71. $13.71. We still have some of that money left. As you adjust people's salary, you try to make sure that the ripple doesn't move someone who's only been here a year above someone who's been here 2 years. So the ripple has been applied. We only got the lowest of the low, and that's about 100 of your employees, up to $13.71. The money that's left, using the authority which you've given me, we will continue to move the lowest employees further up. I can tell you that in the last month, certainly we've had police officers leave us and a few firefighters leave us, but we are, if I may use the term politely, we are bleeding employees in the lowest levels. And the 150,000 roughly money that's left out of the 400,000, I will continue to move the lowest of the low up. On the other hand, all you have to do is look at the restaurants. They're already paying what? $15, $16, and they can't find people. Hiring is going to be one of your challenges for next year. Keeping your employees. Michael LaQuarrie told me that he has 3 more employees that have turned in their resignations this week to go to work with the county. We have at least 2 other employees that are leaving the city to go to work with the county. And that's fine. They are making a significant increase in pay. This is one of those issues that you're going to face. The second is the new computer system. Now, we're not talking about the CAD system. Mike gave you some great information, and we've now signed the contracts. And fortunately, the roughly $3 million computer-aided dispatch program and the record management system, we've been very blessed that you're really not going to have to pay much for that. Why? Because we have the 911 funds. A grant has been received. It's a cooperative effort between the county, the sheriff's department, and the city. And through that project is not going to impact you the $2 or $3 million that we thought. That's the good news. The bad news is, remember, the computer system that runs everything else in the city, especially our water billing system, is now over 20 years old. And we've been told what? Not going to get any upgrades. Fortunately, Gail and Terrence in our IT department, Gail Maids in finance, and Sabrina Adams is representing Gail here tonight. They are in the process of finalizing a contract with a consultant who will come into the city and to analyze all of our computer systems that we're using today and work a new computer system for us. The reason why we like this contractor is because they don't represent any software or hardware vendors. They are totally independent. They call it as they see it based upon the analysis. Transit contract, we're going to spend a minute talking on that this evening, and Anthony's going to give you an overview, so I won't spend much time or any more time on that. Fire station upgrades and replacements. T and Mike and others have been working with us and will be bringing you a workshop on November the 16th to discuss the county's proposal to buy Station 4 and to share with you a series of options for moving forward with that. We all know that paving has been on the top of your budget wish list for how many years, Councilmember Warden? A lot of years. And y'all have done some creative things by moving money from their fund balance. But if you pardon the expression, we haven't even scratched the surface of the paving needs. Health insurance, well, we're 3 months into this year. So far, knock on wood, looks pretty good. Even so, that's something we're going to have to watch. Leadership transition planning. In my estimate, there are at least 15 of your key leaders, some sitting in this room tonight, who you will see retire between now and the next 3 to 4 years. One of the things you need to be thinking about is the possibility of, if I may use the term, pre-hiring some of their replacements so that you can see a smoother transition and that you can have some on-the-job training. So, for example, when a person comes to us, normally what happens is this employee completely leaves. We go 4 or 5 months looking for someone. That employee comes in. There is no cross-training. There's no cross-pollination. I think that, I believe this is a correct statement. We have been very blessed to have your support. And we have a leadership and a city employee group who is very dedicated. If we're going to keep that smooth working relationship, I think that at least in some of the positions, we need to have what I'm going to call that period of transition where the people who are in those jobs that you have had so much faith with, or faith in, likewise have the ability to set the tone for the person who's going to stand in their shoes. Of all of this, there's actually some good news. Revaluation. As you know, every 4 years, the county tax office revalues all the property. We hope that will wind up with good news. Looking at the housing market and how quickly houses are consumed, I would assume that means that it is still a seller's market, not a buyer's market, and that with that, home values will have gone up. But there's no guarantee. On the other hand, we do know that revaluation may be one of the issues that will help us in next year's budget. At this time, I'd like to mention one other very important thing. That's you. We've listed from what the senior management, Gail, have identified as their topics. That doesn't mean they're your topics. What we ask you to do is look at this list, but add to it. There are things that each of you would like to see us accomplish. Maybe it's a capital project, maybe it's something else. But we'd ask if you would turn those in by November the 9th. That's roughly 3 weeks away. That way, we can begin to compile the schedule to bring back to you in workshop setting the discussion. Just as you're going to hear a report from Anthony tonight, and he is on the 3-minute clock, Mayor, just as you'll hear on transit, we're not asking you to make any decisions. We're simply providing you with information so that when you get into the budget process in great deliberation in March and April, you will have discussed in detail and we will have analyzed in detail these topics. So again, the request is for you to determine items. Please turn those into the city clerk by November the 9th. At this point, we're going to pick up the pace and have a very energetic and lively presentation on transit. So, as Johnny Carson used to, or as Ed McMahon used to say, here's Anthony.
Thank you, sir. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for the opportunity to be your first major budget topic of the season. And I can't help but feel that there was a touch of sarcasm in that transition. So I'm not going to belabor this and take too much of your time, but I believe one of the reasons why transit is your first item here is because it's not just one decision that we're going to have to make along the way. It's going to be a series of decisions. And I'll talk about it in a few more slides. Depending on what the outcome of those decisions are, we may end up being in a little bit of a time crunch come the first of the year, but more to come. So just a very short review before we get into the issue that's in front of us. As you recall, we operate Jacksonville Transit as a contracted service. So the city owns the buses, we maintain the buses, but we hire a contractor to operate them. So manage the driver corps on a day-to-day basis. It's happened since 2007 when we rolled out Jacksonville Transit in its current configuration. And as you probably remember as well, we transitioned contractors in 2019. First Transit is our current vendor, and they've done an excellent job. Over the past 2.5 years, they've transitioned from MV to First Transit very smoothly, and they focused on customer service, being responsive to the city's needs, and they've just been a good partner. Our current agreement has a 3-year base term, and fiscal year 22 is the last year of that base term. So the 3 years is the only guaranteed period of performance of the contract. Going into 23, those are what we call option years, 23 and 24, by which the contractor and the city have to mutually agree that we want to extend the contract. And unfortunately, that's kind of where we're running into some of the challenges for the upcoming fiscal year. Traditionally, the contracts have gone through all 5 years, the 3 base years and the 2 option years, because that's the same format as our previous contracts have been. And the fixed escalation factor has been 3%, which seemed to work well for us, seemed to work well for the contractor, at least up until this point. A little bit about the operations. We're very unique in the fact that we operate 365 days a year. And primarily that's because of the clientele that we serve. Jacksonville has a very strong service and retail industry, and those employees, they have to go to work 365 days a year. So we're providing service to them on a daily basis, but we also serve the Marines aboard Camp Lejeune. A lot of those are individuals who have leave time during holidays, and so we operate all holidays to provide service for those Marines to come out and enjoy Jacksonville on their leave time. First Transit accrues about 30,000 payroll hours in a given year, and that's with 22 drivers, 2 dispatchers, a general manager, and an assistant general manager. Right now, the base hiring rate for an operator or a bus driver, that means entry level, just going on the road for the first time, is $13.26 an hour. A key aspect of those positions is that every single one of them requires a CDL license with a passenger endorsement. So looking at the existing contract, you can see what the numbers are in fiscal year 22, and then the 3% growth into fiscal year 23. We do pay the contractor by 2 different means. One is a fixed fee, and that's the same amount every single month of the year. That's to cover what we consider their fixed costs that don't change from month to month. But operationally, every month is different. So we have different number of days. Some months have holidays, some months don't. Sometimes we provide special service, and that's where the revenue mile rate comes in to pay the lion's share of that cost. A couple weeks ago, First Transit contacted me to inform that they had concerns about extending the contract. And the reason was 2 particular issues. Dr. Woodruff mentioned earlier about recruitment and retention. I think that's impacting everyone, particularly this industry. I'm sure you've read in the newspaper and heard on the TV news that there is a driver shortage nationwide. Food and other goods are sitting at ports because we don't have people to move them. And the folks that drive our buses, those are folks qualified to do that kind of work. So the market is very competitive for these folks. Again, the current hiring rate is $13.26 per hour. They did a market analysis. That means First Transit. They did a market analysis on their own, and they have concluded that the base rate for an operator should be $17 an hour. Now, myself, I don't really know that much about human resources, just know enough to stay out of trouble, but I did provide this to Kimberly and her staff, and the one thing they did agree with of their evaluation is that the $13.26 is not where we need to be at to be competitive. But they did also disagree that the $17 is a little bit high. So one thing that we know going into fiscal year 23 is that the number is probably going to have to change to remain market competitive. Question is, what is the actual number that we're willing to support. And that's going to require more analysis and negotiation with the contractor. Another factor that's driving their costs is the insurance rate. So when we started it with them in 2019, and it's interesting, they don't pay by the year like we do as private consumers. They pay by the operation mile. So the more that they drive a bus every single day, every single year, the more that they pay in insurance. That rate started at 8 cents per mile in 2019, and now it is 24.5 cents per mile today. They did provide information from their insurance company to back that up. I'm not questioning the validity of that claim, but the question is, how much of that is, the city really responsible to carry? And that's another question that's going to have to be answered. Why are the rates going so high? Is there anything that we can do to mitigate? And if so, let's do that and figure out what a more reasonable rate might be.
Can that rate, can be compared to other transit operations? That's about a 300% increase. I mean, it's...
My math indicates that too. I just wasn't courageous enough to say it. What they have told me is that they pay the same rate of insurance, and this is going to somewhat answer your question, just not total. They pay the same rate in Jacksonville, North Carolina, as they do in Los Angeles, California.
That's ridiculous.
Okay? Their insurance carrier has a standard rate for their operations nationwide. So, and really, if you read the report that came back, you can understand why. The trend line for insurance claims is just skyrocketing. It's like the cost of healthcare insurance. The number of multi-million-dollar claims that they've had to settle over the past 10 years, the trend line is just straight up. And so, insurance companies aren't nonprofit organizations, so the costs that they incur, they're going to pass along to the consumer. Unfortunately, that's us. Well, generally speaking, it's about 200,000 people a year. Now that fluctuates because of different trends, like with the hurricane and bad weather and then COVID, but generally speaking, about 200,000 passengers a year.
Do they get cards, like as far as like for fees and tolls and whatnot? How does it work?
So there are a variety of options for them to pay the fare. The most recent of our options, and really it's been very successful, is what we call token transit. And it's a smartphone application that passengers can buy their fares on, and they just show the driver an image of the fare being consumed, and it works very well. It streamlines our process, and it makes it really convenient for them. That's about 40% of our payments to this point. The remainder are just cash fares. We do sell multi-ride pass cards, but you have to come to City Hall in order to get those. We'll punch them on the bus for you. So did that answer the question?
Thank you.
Good. So really, what is the bottom line here? And the middle column is a carryover from the slide you saw just a few minutes ago. That's what we anticipated the fiscal 23 cost to be based upon the existing terms of our contract, okay? Again, that's the standard 3% increase that we've seen year after year after year after year. The proposal is slightly different, as you can see. Instead of a bottom line of $925,000, basically puts us at about $1.3 million. And the breakdown, you can see with the fixed fee and the revenue mile rate. So with the fixed fee, we're going from about $23,000 a month to $36,000 per month. And for the revenue mile, we're going from $1.68 per mile to $2.25 per mile. Now there's some red flags here, and obviously the bottom line is one of them. But the other is, you can see the total increase at the bottom of the page there. It's almost $400,000. But really, the biggest concern to me is the general fund impact. So the $191,000 would be roughly half of the total overall increase that the city would have to bear. As you recall, the city, and we fund this program in partnership with the state DOT and the Federal Transit Administration. And so The reason that we're at this level right here moving forward is because we've exceeded the amount of money that the state gives us to help support our operations. And so then we're responsible basically 50-50 with the federal government to cover the cost. One major concern that I have with increasing the number this rapidly is the fact that we're getting to the very top of the allocation of the federal amount that's given to us every year. Currently, there's a very nice cushion there, okay? So we're only consuming about $1 million worth of federal money to operate the system in total. Our allocation is $1.4 million. That difference is what we use to pay for capital improvements like Jacksonville Station and shelters and bus replacements. However, if we consume that entire allocation with operations, then we don't have the flexibility for the replacement vehicles and the other capital expenses.
Do we have a contingency so that we don't necessarily, if negotiations with them don't go well? Have we thought about perhaps putting it back out on the street again to see what the market might bear? I mean, I don't know what's out there, their competition, but.
That's an excellent segue, sir, because we're going to talk about next steps and options.
All right.
As I mentioned before, this is going to be a series of decisions that we have to make. Hopefully, we can make this decision before the end of the calendar year. Reason being is because one of those options, number 2, if, like you said, Mr. Warden, we decide to reject their proposal, put it back out on the street, see what the market has to offer, that process takes about 4 or 5 months minimum. So again, that's why this is one of the first budget items and why we're hoping to get a decision sooner rather than later. But the staff, we would like to, first of all, negotiate with the contractor and see what their best and final offer is. My math, even though it's really weak, indicates that there is probably a significant amount of buffer in the number that they have sent to us. And they have indicated that they're willing to negotiate. So I believe it's in our best interest to figure out, how low we can get them to go. If nothing else, that's an information point for the council as we move forward to make decisions on other options. So number 2 is certainly an opportunity for us, and we'll make a decision in the future as to whether to explore that. But then the third, exploring in-house operation. As you recall, that's something that the council asked us to do last time we went out for contract, and it was to determine what the cost differential was if we decide to move away from the contractor and bring the operation in-house. So there are pros and cons associated with each of these, and we'll step through them as we move forward. Our goal is to bring you back a best and final offer and more information on number 2 and number 3 on the 16th. Hopefully we can get some direction from council then. If not, if you need some more information, then we can certainly come back the first meeting in December. But really, that's when we would have to make a decision in order for number 2 to be a viable option for us to consider. Hate to be the bearer of bad news, but we'll get through it. We always have with transit. So, are there any questions?
What was the insurance for? It doesn't, obviously it's not our vehicles, or is it just?
So the insurance that they refer to is the insurance that they carry as the operator of the system, just like the insurance that you carry as a driver of your vehicle. It protects them from whatever liabilities pop up when they're out there transporting passengers. One of the very challenging things about transit insurance is that it's a lot of miles. They're very large vehicles, they're in congested areas, but most importantly, they carry a lot of passengers. So that creates an opportunity for much larger claims.
What we may find is that they've got issues in other communities and it's causing their rate to go up. It may be that another contractor would have a much lower insurance rate if they are much safer. And also, I would say it's probably in MV's, is it MV this
First
current?
Transit.
Yes, okay. They might need to check out other insurance carriers themselves.
I certainly would if my premium tripled.
Yeah, it sounds, something doesn't sound right. There's an issue somewhere, either
Right.
with the carrier or with them themselves.
think the thing you have to find out is what percent is insurance of your total operating cost.
I've worked on those numbers behind the scenes, and I'm, again, not confident in showing them tonight, but on the 16th, you will see that.
Okay.
You will also see what the rate increase for the salaries, dollar for dollar, actually means to our costs versus what they're asking. But again, before we disclose all of that on television, I'd really like the opportunity to negotiate with them and see if we can come up with a better proposal for the council to consider, and then we can make decisions from there.
Any other questions of Anthony? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Well done, thank you.
Did you have anything else, Dr. Woodard? Okay. All right, so now we'll go to the reports for this evening. And I have no report, but I'll go to Mr. Jackson.
Thank you. First, Mayor, thank you for allowing Mr. Haber the opportunity to kind of, express his grievances. Sometimes it takes just getting things out of you for you to calm down. It's been a very serious situation. I've got opportunity to meet a lot of people in town center. I have a background dealing with veterans advocacy, so seeing homelessness is not new to me. And the results of what homelessness do to people. So I understand why Mr. Haber is very charged up right now, especially when you have a lot of uncertainty. And hopefully we can move forward as a community to come up with some solutions. Us as partners to a larger community. So, but that's all I have for right now. We just keep on moving forward, trying to find out the best way to handle people and the issues of our community, and expressing love as one community, and people seeing that with the truth of what love can do, Not a one-sided love or two-sided love, but what love is supposed to be about. So that's all, man. Thank you.
Mr. Sosa.
I'm good.
Mayor Pro Tem Bittner.
You've heard enough from me about me. Pass.
He forgot about you again.
I just want to say thank you to my family and my friends and the council and the city of Jacksonville for your unwavering support. I am truly blessed to have received an appointment by Governor Cooper, and I thank him as well for entrusting in me to be one of the newest commissioners on the North Carolina MAC. So I also want to take this opportunity to say thank you to Lieutenant General Walter Gaskins, who is now the Secretary of the Veterans and Military Affairs for North Carolina. And I promise I'll make you proud of me, so thank you.
Mr. Thomas.
No report, thank you.
Mr. Warden.
The only thing I'm going to do is piggyback on Mr. Jackson's comments. Look at our logo up there. What's it say at the bottom? A caring community, and I think we need to continue to care for those folks at Town Center. That's all I got to say.
Dr. Woodard.
Let John go first, if you don't mind.
No report.
On the one city moment tonight, if the media department would please run these videos or the slides for the Chew Drive. We are a caring community and we're a caring staff. As you know, Chew is designed to help provide food for the needy, especially needy students. Your city employees have a group that determines, without any management oversight, thank goodness, on what fundraisers they will have in the course of the year. Recently, this committee ran a fund drive or a food drive for Chew. You can see every department participated. I believe the final number of canned goods and individual items was about 2,000 individual canned goods and items, all donated by your city employees. You notice at the fire department, they have a special hook that's designed to help people. And T has set this up where each of the fire department stations competes to see who wins the hook. And of course, this particular station won it. I believe that station won. But you can see Pam and Susan and others who are on that committee. This is just a demonstration of the care that your employees try to give every day in addition to the regular services. Mm. 22 years. Parnell. Thank you.
With that, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn?
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
All right.